The snow melted early this year. That's a pleasant surprise. Winter is not quite done with us yet. I'm sure it is. She always has her secret plans, just like all of us. The plans, wishes, and dreams of a storekeeper, carefully made and saved. Every single one of them. Like chubby, helpless babies created with tender love. And what can we do but protect them and help them grow? Winter especially likes to play the trickster. Her plans are always a little more cunning and a little more evil than others. Even today, as the sun calls down and fresh birdsong drifts from every tree, a whispering cool breeze glides across every willy-nilly surface. It feels like a warning, as if there's more to come. Still, it's nice to see the greenery in anticipation of April showers. It lifts your spirits and makes you forget about the creaking in your joints. It energizes you like you've been working out. Ben doesn't agree with me, but he would. The man sees the world without poetry. And he can't hum a tune, so there you go. He's worried this early thaw will be bad for the crops. Well, maybe. It could mean a hot, dry summer, or it could mean a late frost. But it doesn't matter much to me, and I can't bring myself to take it seriously. After all, no matter what the weather does, the men in the neighborhood always find some way to make it bad for the crops. If they ever took the time to not talk about it, I'm not sure they'd have anything to talk about at all. And why should we care? We haven't been farmers in, 20 years. Ben can talk and worry until his heart stops. It doesn't concern us anymore. 20 years. Wow. Has it really been that long? 21 summers since Kevin left and left us alone. And another year for us to admit the obvious. It had been a hard time. He was my baby, my youngest child. You know, it takes a woman a while to learn to find value in an empty nest. A lot longer than a man. And maybe it will take her a while to find value in herself too when all her children are gone. Maybe she'd never recover. And Kevin's leaving was doubly hard. He forced us to leave the farm. Even then, a generation ago, we were too old to handle everything on our own. Without Kevin and Michael around to help, it was just too much. I didn't mind leaving much. I still don't. Oh, I miss the scenery, the green smells of summer, and the everlasting tranquility. But I'm glad to be rid of all the associated work. And I'm doubly glad to be rid of the damn animals. It was enough animals for this woman to have 3 males around. Thank you. Anything else just seemed like punishment. Ben didn't mind, though. He still mourned the loss. He'd always been so proud of this land, like it was another child, his firstborn, the apple of his eye. And now, decades later, enough time for our Michael to marry and raise a child, he still doesn't know what to do with himself. He looks for excuses to work, or other farmers to talk to about the weather. Poor man. He's a wrinkled old orphan at sea, landless, lost, and terribly unclaimed. All he knows, all he values is dirt. Mud he can stand on. Dirt he can plant plants in. Dirt he can live off of. And I'd give it back to him if I could, even if it meant more damn cows. Of course, I can't give it back to him. We're stuck here. There's nothing to say about it. Castlewood isn't a bad place to end it all, though, if ending it all is what you have to do. It's not so small that there are no kids here, which is nice, but it's also not so big that people like us start to feel overwhelmed. Heck, we've been coming here on weekends for years, so we were already unofficial residents. Castlewood was always our only stop for church and grocery shopping. The steakhouse is the only real restaurant for miles. And of course, Kevin and Michael went to school here. Once they got cars, they were here all the time. I think a lot more of their happiest teenage moments happened in Castlewood than on the farm. That's how they realized they had to leave. Ben used to stop by here a lot too, to meet friends at the bar when he was still drinking. But that was before the boys came along. Thank goodness they never got to see that side of him. He got it from his father. He killed that old bastard shortly after we were married. Ben got hurt too. It took some of his youth, weakened him a little. But he picked himself up willingly, didn't think it was the right thing to do. I'm proud of him for that. Yes, we've changed over the years. But the town sure hasn't changed. One church, one bar, one school, and one stop sign. This is Castlewood, the last place in my life I'll ever call home. I may not miss the farm as much as Ben does, but I love sitting here on the back patio every morning and drinking coffee. It faces away from the city, and we are on the outskirts, so it feels like I'm all alone here. Alone, but significant. Like on a farm. Like in a church. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Sipping black, watching the breeze tickle the tall grasses. The only thing that gives away my little illusion is that damn stop sign. I don't even know why it's there. No one ever pays attention to it. Why would they? The amount of traffic we get in Castlewood on any given week is probably about the same as a regular dead-end alley. There are only a few people here, and most of them are transported residents or their spouses. The two-lane road that crosses the road into town, I honestly don't know anything about. It comes out of nowhere and disappears again. I almost never see passing cars when I'm here. But talk about these things and they show up. Adrian Burke's silver lacrosse is just this minute cresting the hill on the other side of the stop sign, heading into town. I hold my coffee cup in my hand and watch him drive. Adrian's is a nice guy. He didn't grow up here, but his wife did. Laura Burke was born and raised in Dole, and a very pretty one at that. Her parents are good people, longtime locals. They are loved and respected. And so was Laura. She was a very popular girl. Pretty, really. When she left for college, a lot of the local boys took it pretty hard. You'd have laughed when you saw them. For weeks after she left, they just hung around the house like sullen children. Without their antics and conversations, the town had a quiet June. I think by the end of June, even the pastor and the sheriff were waiting for them to start misbehaving again. I shouldn't be so picky about the boys, though. It wasn't just them. Some of the older ones sulked a little too. But they never said anything. They just sat in groups, and when their wives passed by, complained about the lack of rain. It rained just fine, and we all knew what was really going on. Men. But Adrian suited her, and I'm glad they found each other. It's the kind of thing you can recognize. They just fit together. She found him in college, and that was the end of it. Now they live in Des Moines. It's a 3-hour drive from here, but they come to visit. Usually they come on holidays, because I don't think Adrian has a lot of family of his own. And sometimes on weekends. But today is Tuesday. I can't understand why they would show up on a Tuesday. And they're going really fast. Must be going 90, maybe more. It's very strange. I don't know if I've ever seen one of them speeding. Wow. I don't think they're even going to slow down for the intersection. Oh my God. I'm holding my breath. Stupid woman. No. I may be a stupid woman, but I'm worried. Something must be really bad. You see, most people around here don't pay attention to this sign. They treat it as a landmark or a welcome mat, nothing more. But Adrian Burke always slows down behind it. It doesn't matter that you can see for miles from the hill, or that there's no one else on the road. He always slows down. Hell, in the winter, he stops altogether. He likes to say it's a city feature. Rob Dunham jokes about it. You can always tell when Adrian is driving, he says, because he gives way to the headwind. And today he wants to race right through that intersection. It's like the devil himself is following. Is that a two-way truck too? Talk about rare. Jesus Christ, it's a semi. He's gonna... Adrian, J.B. Matthews. My heart goes out of rhythm, and I hit the brake. It doesn't matter. I never had a chance to stop. You can't just slow down a truck that big. I'm yanked sharply by my seatbelt, and it hurts, but just a little. It's not me in real danger. It's them, in lacrosse. The little silver sedan folds up and collapses around my grill, looking like a paper toy. The sound is nauseatingly concussive. I keep braking, but God knows how many feet pass before we finally come to a stop. I can't breathe. I can only stare. Lacrosse is destroyed. My hands are shaking. Move, I tell myself. Move. But I can't bring myself to unbuckle my seatbelt or open the door. Move. I shouldn't be here. I'm not supposed to be anywhere near this place at all. I was supposed to get to some wind turbine field, 40 minutes ago now. Got lost on my last run before a 4-day break. This was supposed to be my weekend with the kids, and Michaela says that if I have to cancel the trip again, I might stop coming altogether. I don't make my own damn schedule. She knows that. And all I want out of this life is some time with my kids. To be a part of their growing up. To know them and be known. But no one cares about me. Not Michaela. Not her new husband. Not the court. She's so damn angry since the divorce. She'll probably take the kids to her mother's house for the weekend just to spite me. Probably leave that asshole of hers to break the news. The kids sometimes call him Daddy. Doesn't that break your heart? My kids call him Daddy. I'm in a hurry. I'm desperate, but I'm also a cautious guy, so I'm not speeding. At least that's what I can claim. And I was actually driving down the road and trying to guess the name of the small town to my right when Lacrosse appeared out of nowhere, right in front of my face. There was no time to react. I punched him hard. My fingers finally fumbled for the seatbelt lock. I can't look inside the wrecked sedan, but stains of dark, foreboding blood splatter all over the crumpled hood. The silence amazes me. No screams or calls for help. My God, I've just killed a man. Ben Jones. The basement is dusty and damp, and cluttered. We've got 2 decades worth of junk in here. I can't get this woman to throw anything away. And on those rare occasions when she does agree to throw something out, I find some quiet excuse to leave it. If she notices, she doesn't say a word. And yet there are pile after pile lying around down here, providing a good life for insects. Most of them are really worth leaving behind. Honestly. But it raises a stink. Some people will disagree, call us hoarders or something. But there's always a reason to keep. Michael's old comic books, Kevin's tricycle, the tent we bought for the Wyoming trip, the one that broke the first night. We never used it after that, but here it is. These things are useless. These things are my life. I'm actually looking for an old vacuum cleaner right now. The new one's noisy and the roller won't spin. Thought I could use the old one to try to fix it. They're not the same model, but the same company. At least it will give me a purpose for the afternoon. Something to keep myself busy. But Rachel's scream gives its own purpose. I come running as fast as I can, but she's just standing on the porch with coffee on her jeans and her mouth closed. I reach out my hand, fearing she might burn herself. And then I see the ruins. Jesus Christ. Is this Adrian and Laura's Lacrosse? It's a wreck. It was almost flipped over. Are they in there? Oh my God, are they dead? The door to the cab of the truck opens, and a burly, middle-aged man falls out. Lands on his hands and knees, looking disoriented. He's probably hurt or just scared. He vomits on the concrete and then smears it with his hands, trying to get up. Don't people sometimes vomit after a head injury? I seem to remember reading something about that. I look back at Rachel. She's just shaking, eyes widened, probably in shock. Go get help, I tell her. I'll see how bad it is. She doesn't move, so I grab her arm and turn her around toward the house. Go! I yell and push her, hoping that if I'm strong enough, she'll reach it. It works. She whizzes past the screen and heads for the phone. I hope she didn't burn herself with coffee. It's a long way from the accident, and I'm already an old man. By the time I get there, the truck driver is bent over the Lacrosse, holding his hands out to the wreckage. He looks stunned. Some of the vomit is stuck in his beard, and there's blood on his forearms. I don't think it's his blood. He looks at me with a horrifying sense of guilt. I'm sorry, he says, and I doubt anyone in the history of this world has ever said anything more sincere. Are they alive? It's just one guy, he says. I think he is. I look over his shoulder and see Adrian Burke. The air comes out of me. He's dead, or dying. He must be. His head's all wrong. It's just, wrong, like the skull's been crushed. Eyes wide open but not moving, probably can't see anything. The left one is blurry and swelling rapidly. The face is mottled with oozing cuts from glass. Below the shoulders, everything seems to be fine, but who can tell? He begins to shake, and the truck driver's hands slip as he tries to hold him in place. Adrian's lips move, but I don't think he's trying to speak. It looks more like some kind of seizure. There's so much blood. I've always seen it on the farm, but it's different when it's an animal. You get to the point where you don't even notice it anymore. But it's a man, a good man, and he's dying right in front of me. Adrian, I say, and I wish I hadn't. It doesn't help anything, just makes it all the more true. He starts shaking harder, low guttural sounds coming out of him, and the truck driver tries to find an angle that will allow him to both restrain and support him. I pull myself as close to him as I can. Carefully, like the birth of a calf, I take Adrian's shattered head in my hands. I don't know what else to do but apply as gentle pressure as possible and hope that I manage to bind Adrian's fractured skull until help arrives. "I'm sorry," the truck driver says again. "And what do you say to that?" Rachel Jones. "I might just slap myself. Stupid, stupid woman. And everyone wants to believe that they won't be useless in an emergency. But Ben had to yell at me to get me to move, and then I stood uselessly while the ambulance rushed from county hospital and the men held Adrian in place. Worse, it wasn't until the paramedics showed up and were able to get Adrian into the car that I noticed half the town standing around gawking at us. I watched them stare at me, and then it finally dawns on me that Bill and Amanda Dole probably haven't been told anything. "Ben," I whisper. "They're not here. I don't think they know." I may not be thinking clearly, but he sure is. Meh! He hurries away without another word, and 20 minutes later the dolls are already in the car and driving out of town. Bill is driving, and Amanda is on her cell phone, chatting animatedly with someone. You've never seen paler, more frightened faces. I tell them to call me when they know more. Amanda says she will. I'm already making plans in my head to go out and join them. Bill stops to ask Ben a question about the route, and Amanda peers out the window a little to give me a hug. She's crying. But who doesn't cry? The townspeople don't gossip. They're quiet and respectful and mournful, but we're all so used to being quiet. People like us are incapable of understanding these things without talking. Rob Dunham's voice comes to me. "What the hell was Adrian doing in town on Tuesday?" he asks. "And where the hell is Laura?" Amanda Dool. It took us 3 hours to get to the hospital. 3 silent, unthinkable hours that whizzed past us at half speed and stretched like the highway we were driving on. So can anyone tell me how in heaven's name Bill and I managed to get there before the trauma helicopter? When the woman on the phone at Hamlin County Hospital told me that Adrian would be airlifted to Mercy Hospital in Des Moines, I figured he'd probably be there within the hour. I mean, what's the point of airlifting if it doesn't cut down on travel time? And here we are. It's been almost 4 hours since Bill Jones first knocked on our door, and he's still listed as en route. I'm told that when he arrives, he'll be taken directly to the trauma center and taken straight into surgery. The obese and bored bitch, well, that's just the way it is, at the nurse's station won't communicate anything more than that, and won't explain to me why they can't get him in sooner. Well, she can quibble, but she can't stop me from insisting. "Do you know exactly what his injuries are?" I ask for the 3rd time. "Will he even make it to the hospital? Can't they operate on him during the flight?" She throws me the look that teachers save for particularly troubled students, and sighs. I throw back a look that only another woman could read and think, "Look, lady, this is my family we're talking about. I stand before you, desperate and old with sweat stains under my arms. I'm begging for every favor. I am a thief of change. That is what I am to you." "Ma'am, I assure you," she says, no longer trying to be patient or caring. "Both the county hospital and the transporter are well equipped to take care of a patient's urgent needs. Your son." "Son-in-law," I repeat. "My daughter's husband. He's being given the best care possible, which means we'll take our time to get it right. You'll know more about his injuries as soon as we know more about his injuries." She presses her lips together, turns and tries to look busy. "Well, I don't see how you can do anything right when no one knows any damn information. I snap at her. She clenches her jaw, but stubbornly continues to look busy. Sam! I glance over my shoulder at the glass door where my husband is standing with his hands over his eyes, looking up at the sky. Oh, Bill. You've gotten so thin in your old age. Old people should be as fat as children, and you should be sitting up. I look around. Look, I say in a softer tone. Can't you just... There's a rhythmic pounding behind me, and I turn around. Bill is banging a hammer on the glass, pointing to the sky. I hurriedly step out, hopeful. There, he points. I can't see anything. It's over here. That's it. Bill, trust me. He covers his eyes with his palms again. It's there. I wrap my two chubby arms around him and lean my tired head on his shoulder. I always trust you, my love. Bill does. The helicopter lands, but the situation doesn't improve quickly. People get out of the helicopter with what can only be called good speed and carry the stretcher out, but then everything seems to stop. Minute after minute, they just stand there, hovering over it, not going inside. They don't rush to contact the doctors. They don't seem to care how long they take. They just move around the prostrate figure with the methodical slowness of a cold lizard. On the other side of the door is a hospital full of life-saving equipment, but these unresponsive fools aren't going anywhere. Does that mean it's too late? Is Adrian really dead? God, if so, Amanda speaks, and I realize I'm not listening to her. But all she does is call Laura's cell phone again, leaving another message. I add this to the list of questions that are plaguing my heart right now. Where is my daughter? Amanda sighs, hanging up the phone. Still no answer, she says. I keep my eyes on the paramedics. Do you think her absence has anything to do with Adrian showing up on Tuesday and at speed? I don't know. I hope not. She looks at me and shakes her head. But something must be wrong. Behind us, a nurse opens the door. Though I'm sure Amanda has gotten on her nerves more than once, she looks at her now with a soft pity. I have to ask you if you want to say goodbye, she says. I glance at the helicopter, nod, and Amanda starts crying again. Wednesday, March 16th. Rachel Jones. The truck driver is sitting with Dole's parents when I get to the waiting room. He looks terrible, sickly, like he'd gladly get up and die if it were that easy. I don't know how aware the Doles are of the accident, whether they know Adrian was at fault, but they don't seem to shy away from the grubby man. That's a good thing. It's 9 in the morning, and even though the trauma center waiting room is divided into several bays, each with fold-out couches with pillows, I can see that none of these people slept last night. Amanda gets up, wobbly but smiling, and hugs me. Do you know anything? I ask. What did they say? Amanda nods, then swallows hard and looks at Bill. He stands up, weak from age, and shakes my hand. Well, he says, he's not dead, and if he survives, you may have saved his life. There's not much you can promise now. The surgeon came out and talked to us. When was that, Mandy? Sometime after 4. After 4, he agreed. They just finished with him. He's got, let's see, his skull is fractured right here. He points to the spot under his nose and then runs a finger along the right side of his face. It continues here. He runs his finger under the cheekbone on the other side and up above the ear. They put plates in to hold it together. The bone is badly cracked around the eye sockets, and the jaw is broken in 2 places. It will be closed with wire for a while. The clavicle is broken too, and he broke a few ribs. Turns to Amanda for help. The last thing they did was go inside and take out all the glass, she says, more to him than to me, and he snaps his fingers. That's right, glass. He had a lot of glass in his face. They took it out and stitched it up, though they say there's going to be quite a bit of scarring. They had to leave a big chunk in his eye. In his right eye? I ask. It looked terrible. Yeah, the right eye, it's gone. I look at him in horror, and he puts his hands up. I'm sorry. It's not gone. It's gone. He'll just never see out of it again, is what I'm saying. They're going to wait for the blood to drain out and then try to remove the glass. If they succeed, and it doesn't shrink in size, at least it can stay inside. Otherwise, if it shrinks, he may need a prosthetic. They, they, he sighs. I'm really sorry about that. I'm really tired. We're all tired. It's hard to remember some of this stuff. I understand, I say. I completely understand. Didn't sleep at all? No. No, and he won't for a while yet. It's on purpose. I think they've put him into a chemical coma, that's what it's called. They're keeping him out until he stabilizes and heals. They've decided that maybe in 5 or 6 days or so, they'll try to bring him out of it. If, he stammered. We were told to be prepared for the possibility that he might just pass away, Amanda said. He had severe swelling of the brain. They drilled a hole in his head to reduce it, but... At that, I closed my eyes. I had an uncle on my mother's side who was in a motorcycle accident. He survived, he had brain swelling, and after that he was never the same again. His whole personality changed. He was retarded. He struggled with simple motor skills and tasks. He forgot things. It ruined his life. Wait a minute. It occurred to me that something was wrong. Something is missing. I open my eyes, look around the room, and frown. Where's Laura? I ask. They exchange glances, and Amanda sighs. Thursday, March 17th. Bill does. The doctor says the boy will definitely survive. I think now would be a good time for prayers to be answered. I wish I had known. I have a list I've been making for years, full of names, guilt, and sorrow. Oh well, I guess I should just be glad that he can be counted on sometimes. There's no news yet on whether he'll still have that eye. We were told that brain damage should be considered certain, but they didn't say how severe. Well, I'm not going to hear anyway. I want to hope that someday we can look back and wonder. Marvel at how lucky we were that such a close call didn't have lingering effects. To marvel at how the good Lord reaches out. He has answered my prayers and made me greedy. There is a new addition to this list of petitioners, that my daughter's chosen husband live and be in good health. This favor I ask of my God, from whom I have never expected anything but good weather to grow crops, for whom I have lived, and for whom I will someday die. Amanda sits at her computer and checks her email. She leans over to the screen and squints. I ran into the house yesterday and grabbed some necessities, but I forgot her reading glasses and her heart medicine. Silly old man. She slowly, methodically goes through the messages. I can't imagine who they're all from. Probably shouldn't read them. Yes, it used to be harder to send a letter, but it used to be something special too. Like a lot of things, I guess. I don't know what's weirder to me. The fact that they found it necessary to put a computer in the waiting room of the trauma center, or the endless traffic that swirls around it. It would seem that people have enough to worry about without trying to deal with one of these damn things. But they walk past it with the leisurely adoration of the faithful before a blessed relic. It doesn't look like they take much pleasure in it. It's more of a duty than anything else. But they always come back for more. Those stupid things are everywhere now. I think they're even used on farms for stuff. They use them to keep an eye on... Oh shit, who am I kidding? I don't know what they use them for. All I know is Wayne Youngblood's always grumbling when he comes to town. Here's a man who keeps up with the times, almost my age, and he speaks the same weird language as the newbies. Knows all the right words, nods at the right moments. Absolutely nothing gets past him. And I guess I envy him for that. I'm a time capsule waiting to be buried, and I know it. I couldn't go back to farming now, even if I had the money. Obsolescence is my only remaining state. That's what I'm in. And yet that computer that Amanda keeps turning on is going to end up being just as obsolete, and it will get there much faster than I will. So I guess it's a draw. I finally talked Rachel and JB into going home. Rachel was clearly exhausted, and JB needs to get out of here if he's going to get rid of the guilt at all. It's eating him up. devastating him. He quit his job over it. Said he could never drive those cars again. I don't know what he's going to do. Anyway, he needs to see the kids. I promised I'd keep him in the loop. He does seem like a nice guy. In some ways, he reminds me of Logan's kid. What was his name? I forget. It's a sad story, too. The kid was supposed to be helping his dad work the fields. Oh, maybe 30 years ago. He asked for time off and went out with some friends instead. Dad's tractor overturned, and when they found him, he was gone. Asphyxiation. Just couldn't breathe under that weight, though I think it took him a while to get going. He probably died hoping his son wouldn't blame himself for the whole thing. But he did. The elder Logan passed away on the last Sunday in May. His son, displaying a patience not usually characteristic of youth, waited a whole year for that day to come again. And then he hanged himself from the nearest tree. Philip. The boy's name was Philip. Terrible. Mrs. Logan is still around, but she's a quiet old bird. There was a daughter, too. I wonder what happened to her. Amanda gasps. I turn to her. She waves her hand and calls out to me. I don't have the strength to run, but I hurry. What's wrong? I ask. Is something wrong? Look, she says, pointing to the screen. It's a letter. It's from Laura. What does it say? Just read it. I start reading, leaning over her shoulder, and the world gets a little colder. Oh, Laura. Oh, no. Amanda Dole. What has my daughter done? We're going to be needed, Bill. Even more than I thought. Adrian will need us most of all. His whole life is in pieces. And Laura will need our support. Perhaps our understanding, or at least our forgiveness. And I'm not sure we have enough strength left to take care of either of them. Oh, Adrian. Is that why you ran away? Why did you come to us? Did you think there was something we could do? Some way to undo what's already happened? What are we going to do? Tell me, Bill. What will Adrian do? What's there left for him to do? We were hoping they could put him back together, and it turns out the biggest piece was ripped out before he even got in the car. My daughter pulled it right out of him. Laura, what are you going to do, honey? Your track record for decision-making is not the best right now. You selfish, stupid girl. Am I supposed to be angry with you? I am. Ashamed? Yeah. Disappointed? A little. But defensive? Sympathy and sadness? I feel it too. Is it wrong for me to want to hold you and help you through this nightmare you've created? To try to make it all go away so you can sleep peacefully when the sun disappears every night? It doesn't matter. None of this is within my power. And it should be. I can't even bring myself to answer my own questions. I ask and ask and ask and know nothing. I reread the letter again. Hi, Mom. I was wondering if you could do me a favor. I had to go to Florida for work. There have been some problems in our Tampa office, and I've been asked to take care of them. It should take a couple weeks. What a drag. I've been gone for 3 days, and I've called home several times, but Adrian doesn't answer or return my calls. Could you try to get in touch with him? I'm sure everything is fine, but all last week he's been kind of moody. When I tried to talk to him about it, he acted crazy. Things are pretty hectic around here, so I might not be able to check my phone or email for the next week or so. If you talk to Adrian, tell him my words about how much I love him. You know I love you too, Mom. Laura. Yes, Laura. I do. I know so much. I know that Principal Financial is having a hard time. These days, of course, everyone is having a hard time. But your employer's difficulties are perhaps a little more pronounced because they recently closed some of their offices on the East Coast. I'm aware of that. You see, when the largest employer in Des Moines, one of the largest in the state, is having such a hard time, word spreads. People discuss it to death. In this part of the country, the survival of a major company becomes life and death for everyone. And you'd be surprised how many people in and around Castlewood have a cousin, brother, or anyone else who works there. So I know that your company's Tampa office has actually been closed for months now. I also know that Victor Casey was back in town last week for his brother's birthday and was talking about a cruise he booked for himself and a woman he is dating. The cruise was leaving today from Tampa. He was meeting her at the airport Monday night, and they were going to spend a few days in Tampa before the cruise sailed. I know Victor Casey still wants you. In fact, he kept asking about you. Until about 6 months ago, Laura. He just stopped asking, and completely out of the blue, and up until now I just hoped that he had found someone else to desire. See, I know that what I told you when you were in high school remains true. No matter how you feel about Victor Casey, he's nothing but trouble. And he's cruel. He plays games and doesn't take responsibility for the outcome. He never loved you and he will always be unfaithful to you. Laura, sweetheart, I also know that adultery is a sin, and a terrible and cruel one at that. And so do you. Friday, March 25th. Amanda Duell. 10 days have passed since Adrian's accident split my world. Has it really been that long? It seems like an eternity has passed. I almost feel like I was born in this body exactly as I am now. A devastated, ugly old woman. The weight of motherhood is already upon me, hips flared. Divine hands have drawn wrinkles and varicose veins on it. The knuckles on bony fingers bulged. A tiresome sight, I'm sure. And I've probably lived my whole life right here in this very hospital. All I've ever done is go from the waiting room to Adrian's bedside and back again for centuries, with no end in sight. Other than needing to eat or pee, nothing changes. 10 days? Huh? Maybe 1,000. Maybe 100,000. But definitely not 10. And I'm not sure how much more I can take. I'm not cut out to be a martyr. I'm too selfish. Hurry up, Adrian. You have to wake up so we can start treatment. All of us. You need to stop hiding and come back into this world to deal with the problems you've been dealt. I know it must be scary. It's been 97 long hours since they started trying to bring you out of the coma. The saline drip that kept you energized has long since run out. The medication is out of your system and you're still unresponsive. It's not because they aren't trying to get you out. I flinch when they press the pen hard on your nails, pinching the sensitive spots until they hurt. But you don't show the slightest concern. You just lie there indifferently, quietly. They are talking to you, asking you all sorts of questions. I talk to you too, tell you stories from your life. You will never admit that you have heard them. Can you hold my hand, Adrian? They ask. Of course you can't. Do you remember how beautiful it was outside on your wedding day? I ask. Of course you don't remember. The night attendant tells me that it's not uncommon for patients in chemical comas to be slow to regain consciousness, especially after brain injuries. He says there's nothing to worry about. But even I can see that people here are getting nervous. Don't you kids know you can't fool an old woman? If I haven't been here forever, then my memories are real. I've given birth, raised children, and weathered storms. I am imprisoned in a man's world. So I know what this life is like. When I think about these things, I miss my husband. They'll keep me here, Bill. They'll keep me here forever. I know they will. They'll keep saying tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow until I get used to waiting for it to come and stop asking. Until I accept that it will never happen. Come and save me. I know you can. I wish you could stay. No, it's not fair. I won't blame you for leaving me. I had to make you come home to take care of business. It doesn't mean that I wanted it or that you wanted it. It just had to be done. We couldn't both stay here forever, locked in our pain and ignoring the outside world. And you're coming back for me. You'll come back tonight and you'll stay for the weekend. You will never leave your love. Not like Laura, our daughter. I have late-night conversations with her to keep me company, the ones she never answers. The endless emails and voicemail messages, each one depositing into the bank account of my running out of patience, and not a word from her in return. In fact, now is exactly that time. Time to dial the number and hope for the best. I walk out into the waiting room and turn on my cell phone. Are you ready, Laura? Will you answer it tonight? Surely your trip is over by now. So where are you? Sitting at home, nervously thinking about your absent husband, afraid of what I might think of you if you ask me about him? Do you think he has abandoned you? Have you listened to my messages? Read my letters? No, you couldn't. Even if you're capable of lying, of betraying your husband, your home, and your parents, you're still not capable of that. You couldn't know he was hurt and just sit at home, hiding from the world to save face. I rub my eyes and look at my phone. I have 6 missed calls. Immediately switching to the call log, I swipe my thumb across the screen. It's from Laura. They're from Laura. And there are messages on there. My fingers shake as I press redial. I can listen to the messages later. Right now, I need to talk to my daughter. My lungs tell me I'm holding my breath, and I force myself to exhale. Get a grip, Amanda. It's in moments like this that the plot unfolds, and it turns when Laura answers the phone. Mom! She screams in my ear. What's going on? There's a frenzy in her voice. Lost. It's easy to sympathize, to forget what brought her to this point. But I can't. Laura, darling, you have to listen to me. Adrian has been... He's awake already? He knows that I... Laura's voice trails off. Of course he does. Of course she would have known by now. If she'd read a single letter or listened to a single voicemail, she'd have gone through them all by now. Oh, my little baby, what are you up against now? He didn't wake up. He's been put into an induced coma, but they're having trouble bringing him out of it. Where are you now? I'm on the highway. I'm driving as fast as I can. Don't, honey. We're not going anywhere, and I won't survive if you get hurt too. Mommy. She doesn't say anything else, but I can hear her crying. I'm so sorry, baby, I tell her. And I think I mean it. You don't know, she says. You don't know what I did. And then she hangs up before I can tell her I know. I dial my home phone number. Bill answers, his voice tired. All this stress and traveling and loneliness is taking a toll on his health. And the next few days aren't helping matters. Bill. I don't even try to restrain myself from screaming. I talk to Laura. She's back and she knows everything. She knows about the accident. She's coming here right now. A sigh breaks out. I'm on my way, he says simply. And then the line cuts off. Saturday, March 26th. Bill Duel. The two of them hang together like vines, helping each other up the barn wall, intertwining and nodding. They cry, as women usually do. Lots of noise, a few words, but nothing that makes any sense. All the sobbing and stuff gives me a headache, but I know enough to stay calm. Laura looks devastated. What the hell is going on? I saw a doctor on TV once, a psychiatrist or psychologist or whatever it was, talking about men and women. She was a sight to behold. Here's this ripped, fiery-looking lady telling a female audience that men are afraid of women's anger and jealous of women's strength. And all these fat women just shook their heads like they'd been blown away by the wind. Told them what they wanted to hear. A woman talking to women about what men think and feel. What a joke. At least when men talk to each other about women, it's just an admission that we can't understand them. There is wisdom in admitting you don't understand. Women, on the other hand, think they know everything. Anyway, I've never been afraid of angry or crying women. Yes, it makes you tired, all that noise and tears. But it doesn't scare you. But 2 crying women, that's too much. Shit. It's just unpleasant. Honestly, I'd rather be in church. Looks like they both want to take the blame for all this. Well, they can both have it as far as I'm concerned. I've just about given up tolerating and sympathizing with anyone not named Adrian here. All this sobbing and trying to measure my guilt isn't going to help this boy one bit. In fact, it's going to hurt. If he ever wakes up, God willing, the last thing he'll need is a couple of women so immersed in their own feelings that they spend more time talking about themselves than caring about him. Bill, Amanda finally says through her tears and snot, could you get us some Kleenex? I raise my eyebrows. Run an errand while you go on and on and on? Well, that's about right, isn't it? No, I say. She throws me the look that women like to throw at men. William, please, we're a mess in here. Well, geez, you should probably stop crying then. Daddy? Laura at least had the sense to look timid. Maybe it was just technique. Each of them had chosen their weapons based on a lifetime of experience. But their attacks are nothing new, and I'm ready. Bill! Amanda says my name as if it's a warning. Look, I know you have your hands full. Laura, I'm sure you feel more than awful. I think you should be, and so do I. Though I don't know why. But if you two don't put the past behind you, stop all the heartwarming stories and tears and start making plans for tomorrow, it won't matter if Adrian wakes up or not. Amanda frowned. How can you say that? Because it's true. He's going to need a strong support system when he comes to, if he does, and he's not going to get it if all you can do is go on and on about your damn business. Make no mistake, that's exactly what's happening here. You two are standing in the trauma room thinking to yourselves. So, okay, I'll get you your tissues if that's what you want, but if you don't stop this ridiculous shit right now, I think you both better leave. I don't often do this kind of thing because I'm usually okay with women solving problems with men. Most of the time, I trust my wife's judgment in this matter. It's just that right now she's found herself to be one of the ones at fault. Maybe it's because I don't like to do it, but when I speak up, she usually listens. Okay, Bill. She nods and wipes away her tears. Okay. And then goes to get tissues herself. She's a strong woman. Not many of them can stand it when a man talks tough, especially when they're on edge. Amanda has the rare gift of logical thinking. My little girl, on the other hand, was always a firecracker and 100% purely female reasoning. Everything had to be on emotion. Everything. Love, anger, stubbornness, compassion. Laura possessed them all before she was even out of diapers. She was capable of terrifying conflicts with other girls that I couldn't even foresee. Weird girl stuff with smoke and mirrors. Amanda told me about them after the fact. Don't get me wrong, I love her dearly. But Laura was something I had to get used to. They must offer new fathers some sort of training on how to raise little girls. Even as a teenager, I had to rely on her mom to play the role of mediator. I just couldn't understand the girl's train of thought. Her emotional state was so exhausting that it was like it was controlling her. I don't think my wife has ever thought that way. My mom didn't either. She was even quieter than my father. Stoic, really. So Laura, my little long-haired clapper, looks at me now with a kind of defiant resentment, as if I'm being unreasonable. But I can see that something else is driving her. Like that time in high school, when she threw that party while Amanda and I were in town. That damn kid Casey fooled around and broke the railing on the deck. Laura feigned outrage when we condemned her for it, but in the end it was just her defense against her own guilt and shame. When she cracked hard. Daddy, she said quietly, how can you say that? How can you ask me to be near him? How can I ever look him in the eye? And what makes you think he'd even want me around? Come here, sweetheart. I let her wrap her arms around me. It would be easier to get her to listen that way. Hugs are good for things like this. I think you should consider the fact that Adrian might not remember anything. Some degree of memory loss is very likely. And he probably shouldn't remember. Knowing the truth won't help him. And I don't know what's going to happen when he wakes up, but I know that his head is badly damaged. He won't be able to do much. He's gonna need a lot of help just to survive. For the rest of his life, honey. This isn't helping, she started crying harder again. I feel so awful. See, that's exactly what I was talking about. I know you feel awful. But these are things that happen to Adrian, not to you, not to me. He's family, and he's going to need us in ways we can't even imagine yet. I take her by the shoulders and pull back, looking her straight in the eye. Did you want a divorce, Laura? Were you going to leave him when the time came? What? She stared at him. No. I love Adrian, I can't help but shake my head in disgust. Pointing out the contradiction between her words and actions doesn't do anything to help me. If you tell him the whole truth about what you did, he'll probably want to get rid of you. And who can blame him for that? I certainly wouldn't. But he'll also be in pain, and pain is something he doesn't need to burden himself with. It hurts me too, Daddy. It's tearing me apart, and who cares? She gasps at my words. I understand. I've never cussed like that in front of her, and today I really had my hands full. Yes, you were hurt, but you're the reason it hurt. You lit a fire in this whole mess, and you don't have to pretend you didn't. But you're missing the real problem in all this. Tell me, Laura, if you take your shame out on this man, tell him almost everything, and he throws you out of his house, who's going to take care of him then? Dad. It's the rest of his life, Laura. The rest of his life. She sobs heavily, but it's okay. Maybe this is the end. How can I live with this? How can I live with this every day? She asks. Damn it. How can you not live? Amanda returns, but she has enough sense to stay away. She looks like she's washed her face. She opens her mouth to speak, but I wave her away. What if he knows? Asks Laura. What if he remembers? Kid, no matter how much his head hurts, he'll be lucky if he remembers his name. And so will we. She just shakes her head. Daddy, she says. I think he came for your help. I think he knew. Just remember what I said, honey. We have to do what's right for him now. If he doesn't remember, then so be it. Amanda Dole. Bill keeps trying to get through to Laura, to get her to give up her guilt in the name of protecting Adrian, but he's only wasting his time. Oh, my love, you want so badly to find a way out of this situation. I know you do. But you're just a man, and men are born to work. Functional, useful, maybe even necessary, they keep this world alive. But they don't understand it. And they don't understand women. They just can't. Right now, what you don't understand is working against you. You don't understand what it means to not know what you want. Not really. Men love goals and accomplishment, so even when they're unsure of themselves, they still look for signs of success. You don't know what it's like to want two completely different things with equal and unrelenting vigor. How a woman feels when she's happy with a man like Adrian Burke, but is drawn to another man, like Laura is drawn to that jerk Victor Casey. I doubt you understand how a woman sees a man either. So you see none of the reasons why you can't get through to your daughter. She's terrified and full of guilt right now, yes. And she just went through the shock of almost losing the man she built a life with. The man she loves. But that doesn't mean she doesn't feel the pull anymore. It means she's even more confused and lost. And somewhere inside her is the thought that spending the rest of her life being punished for a momentary slip-up is too much. It will grow, digging into her emotional core like fingers in the sand. It will point out to her that her growing unhappiness has to do with Adrian, not Victor. It will tell her what she wants to believe. It will tell her that Adrian is better off without her. It will tell her that the accident doesn't really have that much to do with her affair, that it wasn't her fault, and that someday her parents will understand why she had to leave her invalid husband. And it won't be long. A woman in emotional turmoil is a weapon against herself. It will act faster than you can imagine. What's more, it'll start leaning in and telling her these things. Right, now. Part 2. Sunday, March 27th. Laura Burke. He's awake. Oh God, he's awake. The doctors come and go with the same haphazard frequency, but you can read the obvious relief in their faces. I don't think they were so sure he'd even wake up. Adrian doesn't speak yet, and his face is strikingly expressionless. It makes him seem even more lifeless than in his sleep. But he's watching us as we move around the room. His pupils follow every movement, especially mine. He keeps looking at me, almost passively. I can't stand it. What is he thinking about? What is he remembering? I feel like I'm being evaluated or scrutinized every second I'm in this room, but he doesn't even frown. Or smiles. Oh God. What if he doesn't even remember who I am? The doctor says it's too early to tell. His awareness is minimal right now, but growing rapidly, like a drawn-out version of a person who wakes up after sleeping too long. But it's still possible that the damage is extensive. Without saying exactly that, without committing to it, they seem to be setting me up for the possibility of permanent disability. Am I really going to spend the rest of my life as a caregiver for someone who has been broken by my selfish stupidity? Is this what I'm going to get up every morning for? To the tattered remains of a man I killed who refused to die? I'll do it. I promise you, Adrian. I'll do it. Every morning. Always, without fail. I'll be there for you. I'll make it as right as I can. Just don't hate me for it. Rachel Jones. Amanda called this morning with good news. Adrian was awake. It was really nice of her to think of me. Of course, I'd be hurt if I was kept in the dark for too long, but I'm still grateful to her for that. They don't know what state his mind is in, and they still can't make a decision about his eye. It's still too clouded with blood. But they are going to make one decision or the other in a few days when he is able to regain consciousness. It's kind of weird to put a time frame on things like this. Ben says it just means they want to get their decision to the insurance company as soon as possible so they can start sorting out the payout. Maybe he's right. Everyone downstairs is busy gossiping about what he may or may not remember, what he may or may not know. I think he keeps looking at Laura, scaring her with his stare. But since his jaw is wired shut and his mind is still heavily clouded with medication, it's impossible to know what that means. It sounds to me like they should have told him anyway. This whole thing with his defenses is just code. Lies don't help a person. It doesn't work like that. I sit on the porch with a glass of water and think about how the world moves. I think about my boys and look at the empty road with the only stop sign. I think about Michael rushing into town because the girl he was dating thought he was fooling around and he was dancing with Victor Casey. Amanda tells me that Laura is still not herself. Well, gosh, she should be. Sunday, March 28th. Amanda does. Show me your left hand, Adrian, the nurse says. That's what they do. Putting his name in every other sentence. These kids with tired faces and blue coats talk to my daughter's injured husband like he's some kid who was brought in with a cough. Adrian raises his arm a few inches, watching the movement of his own limb with the deeply sunken eyes of a starving man. All right, Adrian, now smiles. Show me the right. He does. Excellent. We're making real progress here. I'm very impressed. I'll check on you later. Okay, Adrian? He smiles at me as he leaves the room. I guess that should be a lot more encouraging than it is. Each new day brings its own positives. They even think Adrian will be able to keep his right eye now. It will be uselessly blind and will likely always be watery and red. But still, it's his own eye, not a prosthetic one. And his kidneys were unaffected by the strong antibiotic they were giving him. I didn't even remember hearing about this possibility, and I almost fought with the doctor about it. However, Bill assures me that it was mentioned as a possibility at some point. I accept his words like a river accepts water, but I still don't remember. Too much is said out loud and not enough is written down, is what I think. How am I supposed to keep track of it all? Are they so afraid of lawsuits that they are hesitant to even diagnose? The neurosurgeon is the only one who seems pessimistic. He constantly talks about the unique needs of people with brain damage, how they may experience swings in emotion or periods of irrationality. Changes in memory and behavior are likely. I can see Laura just falling apart every time he comes in. I'm surprised she's not sprawled out in her chair. Well, that idiot can say whatever he wants. He doesn't know Adrian Burke. This man is going to surprise them all. He has to. I worry a lot about the future in a way I haven't in a long time. It's a hell of an experience. At my age, you'd like to think you've earned the privilege of relaxing. To have that word doesn't mean so much. The future. It should be so unimportant. I thought I'd seen all my worst problems come and go. Even the things I worry about. Cancer or Bill's heart. don't seem so terrible now that we've survived the hills. Now that I feel so heavy and tired all the time. Now that I'm old. May these pains be forgotten and the Lord take me home. But now? It's hard, isn't it? I want my daughter to be happy. Admittedly, I hope she will suffer minimal punishment for her actions, despite how angry I am. And I won't feel any guilt. But Adrian is family too. He didn't deserve anything like this, and I cringe when I think about what she put him through. I can't understand it. It's like finding out your child is a violent criminal. They can lay out the evidence right in front of your eyes, but they can't make you see it. They can't make it real. Adrian falls asleep again. His eyelids droop, and he doesn't fight them. It doesn't take much to exhaust him now. The nurse smiles at me across the bed, body and silent machines, then leaves. I reach out and touch my brother-in-law's cheek and allow myself to feel a slight pity. I hope you never find out what was done to you. I hope you never remember how badly she let you down. How she ran away. How she ran away into the arms of another man. And I hope that if you find out, you will be a good enough person to forgive my daughter for those sins. I hope I can too. Wednesday, May 5th. 54 days after the accident. Adrian Burke. I thought I would feel weird sitting in the car. I thought I'd be scared or desperate, like I have to get out before it's too late. But I don't feel any of those things. I'm just sad. I thought it would help me remember something. The doctor said it could happen, that it might trigger some memories. But it didn't do anything for me. I can half see my reflection in the window. I don't like it, so I close it. There's a stranger sitting in every mirror these days, and he's trying to look just like me. I don't bother. He always fails. There are too many scars on his face. His jaw doesn't sit right, like a broken toy. It's his right eye that gives him away the most, even though many people think he looks almost normal. I see him for what he really is. An undertaker's bad joke. And he's so thin. 30 pounds lighter than me. Of course. Laura looks around, probably wondering about the window, and I smile at her. She tries to respond, but her muscles don't move anymore, and she goes back to watching the road. This feels weird, too. I should be driving. Maybe someday. I'm so lucky to have Laura. Now more than ever. If I had to drive alone, I thought about that stranger some more. It's not just the way he looks that bothers me. It's all the medications he's taking. All the doctor visits he has to go to. The difficulty with short-term memory. The way he balks at simple math problems, crumples uselessly like soft tissue when hit by a car, or can't process most of what he's read. This son of a bitch has no place pretending to be me. Not Adrian Burke. I'm a financial consultant, for crying out loud, and an avid science fiction nerd. My entire existence is tied up in things he can't do. I shake my head. The wind blows pleasantly against my face. It feels like time is rushing past me, speeding up with each passing second. Like I'll be old and dead in an instant. Laura's birthday was Tuesday. I asked her parents if that was why I was going to Castlewood. Maybe we were going to surprise her. They kind of said it was a possibility, but without certainty. Well, Amanda said it was a possibility. Bill always looks at her with tension in his eyes and won't answer any of my questions. He looks really exhausted. I guess the two of them have had a hard time too. Anyway, Amanda claims that we discussed the idea, but nothing was definitely decided. It's not like I came all this way without some kind of certainty. Oh well. Surprise, Laura. I hope you like it. He looks like the man you married, only uglier, stupider, and more broken. Happy birthday. There's no gift check enclosed. I raise my hand and run my fingertips over my scars. I'm so sorry, honey. I asked Laura about that weekend too. She wasn't traveling with me, so where was she? I'm trying to find some piece of the puzzle to make the rest of the story clearer. You know how it is. But she said she was called into work, and I kind of memorized it anyway, so that doesn't help. She looks at me again. I'm going to turn on the air conditioning, she says. I nod and roll down the window. After a while, I close the vent directed at me. The air from the car might be cooler, but it doesn't give me the feeling that the breeze does. I look out the window again. The stranger is still there. I wish him harm and terror and smile. He smiles too, like it's funny. Like he wishes the same for me. It's too late, I say. What? Asks Laura. Nothing, just stupidity. She's silent for a moment. I'm glad you're finally coming home, she says for the 10th time. Isn't it great, Adrian? To get out of this place? I nod. The stranger does too. I just hope you still think I'm worthy of staying. I try to make a joke with my voice, but she flinches. Look, I tell her, it's okay. I know I look different. I know that I'm going to have some weaknesses. But we have to be able to talk about all of this. We can't just ignore it. Be honest with me when you can. I promise to do the same. And sometimes, honey, you just have to let me make a little joke about it. Okay, she cries. She grabs my hand and holds it. I love you so much. I love you too. As long as I have you, I'm lucky. We fall into silence again, and I begin to test my eyesight and information processing speed, testing how many words on billboards I can read before they go by. After a few miles of trying, my max is 1. Damn. What am I going to do with my life now? One of the billboards depicts a baby, and the sight of it pierces me to the core. A baby, I whispered. We were having a conversation about a baby. Laura gasps, and her eyes widen. What? Her hands grip the steering wheel. Sometime before the accident, I brought up the fact that we were having a baby. You. It went on like a blur. I remember we didn't decide to do it in the end. But I don't remember why. Do you? Do you remember that? She frowns, hesitating to answer for a long moment. I remember, she says quietly. What exactly was said? Anything that might explain what I was doing? Not exactly, no. We just agreed that the time wasn't right yet. I've been spending so much time at work, and you wanted more time to prepare financially, so... I look at the stranger, and he shakes his head. For once, I agree with him. This story doesn't feel right to me. But without my memories, what can I know, after all? How did I act? I ask her. Was I upset? Disappointed? She shakes her head, looking more confident now. You didn't seem bothered by it. Like I said, we agreed that we needed to wait a little longer. I try to visualize this conversation, and I'm having none of it. There is a vague sense that the conversation was not what she says it was, that it wasn't pleasant for me. But that's it. That doesn't mean she's lying. Hell, maybe I hid my disappointment from her to spare her feelings, or to avoid a fight. I guess it's possible. I think it was a mistake, I tell her. We shouldn't have waited. She's silent for a moment. Why do you say that? She asks in a thin voice. Because if there was a baby at home who needed us, there's hardly anything that would make me run to your parents' house like that. Not a birthday party, not anger, nothing. I would have stayed home, I wouldn't have gotten hurt, and I wouldn't have had to rally all the royal troops again. I'd be in one piece, and I'd be a good father. What kind of father could I hope to be? I'm surprised at how quickly the tears come. I can't be anyone's father now. She snorts and runs her hand over her face. Adrian? She seems ready to say something, but she misfires and shakes her head. Hey, I tell her. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I love you, she says quietly. I'm really, really sorry this happened. I love you too, more than you'll ever know. I look at the stranger, but he's only sad. And it's not your fault. Thursday, May 6th. Laura Burke. 24 hours have passed, with the rest of my life ahead of me. I'm trying my best to stay positive, to make things work. But Adrian isn't helping. He's trying so hard to be independent, to be himself, and it's not happening. It's too soon. It's driving him crazy. This morning, he didn't realize where he was when he woke up. It freaked us both out a little bit. His short-term memory is improving, but his brain is stupefied by the encounter. He blurted out the most heartbreaking smile when he saw that he was home, in bed with me. I almost wanted to tell him about the affair right then. It hurt, didn't it? But nothing he could do to me in anger could compare to the guilt I felt in that moment. Now I'm folding laundry, trying to figure out what we should do this weekend, and I suddenly realize that I haven't heard from him in a while. I don't know why. Maybe it's this new fragility, but I'm nervous enough to go looking for him. He's standing in the center of the kitchen, deep in thought. Who knows how long he's been there? I lean against the front door and watch him, waiting, knowing he'll only ask me after he's done his best to handle this on his own, knowing he won't succeed. Finally, he sighs and says something inaudible. He doesn't always realize he's speaking inarticulately when he's not concentrating on what he's saying. I keep pointing this out to him, but he keeps forgetting. The doctor says it will go away with time. Maybe. What a huge word. I give him my warmest smile and gentlest tone. It's like taking care of a baby. What, honey? I ask. He wrinkles his nose irritably. I know what he's thinking. It's bad enough he has to ask at all. I'm sure it's driving him crazy to have to repeat the question. Where do we keep the milk? He says slowly. In the refrigerator, honey. A nod is all I get. He doesn't say thank you or anything else that could be construed that way. That would be an admission of his failure. He just turns and opens the refrigerator. The milk is in plain sight, but it still takes him a few moments to find it. I turn and walk down the hall. He doesn't want me to see him struggling. As I walk back to the bedroom, I hear my cell phone buzzing on the dresser. I have a new text message. I start to pick it up, but then I see the screen and freeze. It's from Victor. I haven't spoken to him or heard from him since I decided to check my voicemail when we sat huddled together at the airport waiting for our flight home. That moment felt like a greater betrayal than all the closeness, the lust, the emotional attraction I'd allowed to fester. I sat huddled against my lover when I finally learned that my husband had crashed. I thought about that name for a moment, Victor, then deleting the message without reading it. I'm not going anywhere, Adrian. Not anywhere. End of part 1. Part the second of maybe coming out in 12 hours. Write in the comments if you're waiting for it. Also give a like under this video and subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoyed this video.